Becky.
Hey, John.
What's happening?
I'm just so excited because you know when you make new friends in kindergarten and you just like you meet like the most amazing people and you're thinking like, I just want to hang with this person because their ethos is so good and their humanity is so large. Like, we're kicking it back to kindergarten with one of the nicest, most kind individuals who just happens to run a company.
Yep. So Max has pulled himself up in our sandbox here in kindergarten and we forced him to come over and hang out with us.
Yes.
So guys,
I met my best friend in kindergarten, so it's a good sign.
This is
my
perfect.
gosh,
That may
I
be a
didn't
perfect
even know
lead-in.
that.
That's
That is
awesome.
amazing. Okay, we might have to dive into that one. All right, sorry. Keep going. Intro, Max.
Well, we love hearing founder stories. And Max, if you don't know Max Friedman, he's our guest today. He's the co-founder and CEO of Givebutter. If you don't know him, you definitely probably have heard of Givebutter. They power tens of thousands of organizations online giving, online, and they're just disruptive because, you know what, they started in a college dorm, and he's going to tell the story of how this happened, but very much people first, very much all the value alignment that, you hear from us that we talk about. That's the thing that was really stuck out with us, with Max and his team when we've gotten the chance to get to know them a little bit, is that, they deeply care about our passions and the values of just putting donors first. And it's going to be a wonderful conversation. So we're really excited to have Max here today. He's also legendary. And notice that I said dairy because he drops the puns like nobody's business about butter. So I want you to be listening for those. I'm going to keep a small tally over here. But Max is, let me give you just a little bit about his bio. He started Givebutter in his dorm room, I said, in 2016, and it's now grown to one of the fastest growing and #1 rated nonprofit fundraising platforms, according to GetApp, G2, all the software ranking and review systems put Givebutter at the top because people just love the platform. Max is also the proud new dog dad of Givebutter's official mascot, Buttercup.
Princess Butterpup, And if you are not following her on Instagram, you are missing out on the cutest part of your day.
Absolutely. So, Max, thanks for joining us today. It's so good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you both. It's awesome to just chat for, with folks. And I really, I love what y'all are doing. So I'm glad to be here.
We appreciate it. Well, would you kind of tell us a little bit about your story? I mean, maybe you need to start in kindergarten because that's pretty legendary alone that you met your best friend in kindergarten. But just tell us the story of Givebutter and how you ended up being in this space today.
Yeah, and I do hope we churn puns out throughout the course of this episode. That would be really great.
I'm 1 and you're 0 so far, so I'm keeping track.
So yeah, I mean, shout out to Jonah if you're listening, my best friend from kindergarten, and you both, you three.
Hi, Jonah.
But yeah, go Jonah. We started Givebutter in my junior year of college. Before that, though, I got really hooked on starting a company. My freshman year of college, I got into coding and built this app called Happening. And channeling my inner Scott Harrison, I'll fast forward and say that I ended up sort of turning that event app into I basically ended up like a club promoter, just trying to get the app off the ground. I went to Washington, DC for college at George Washington University, and a lot of the events on the app kind of lent themselves to the nightlife scene. Not really why I started the app, but that's kind of where it went. And when that sort of started winding down, I was looking for what to do next, and I never really thought about it too much at the time, but I definitely was sort of searching for where can I make my impact? How can I use these skills that I've learned in coding and technology and that passion for entrepreneurship and do good? But I had no idea what that looked like. And so I picked up some side projects. I moved in with 2 roommates named Ari Krasner and Liron Cohen, who ended up being my co-founders. We built this website called, originally, this is sort of a fun fact that I've never really shared. I mean, people who saw it at the time would know, but the original name of the site was The Big Cash Game, which quickly pivoted to We Give Too because of poor branding. But basically, it was like an online sweepstakes. You could go on this site and we had a pool of money and you could win. And if you won, part of it would go to charity. And everyone that was sort of pooling the money got a place on the site as like an advertisement. And part of those proceeds went to charity too. So the truth is that the charity piece was a little bit like a gimmick. It was just to kind of like spin up the virality of this idea of this sort of silly sweepstakes, like a bulletin board of ads with a enter your email to win sort of thing. But the charity piece was the most interesting part of what we were doing. We had a lot of nonprofits reach out. We ended up getting some press in the Washington Post. And we were learning more and more about the fundraising space generally, and the gap between a lot of the sort of the nonprofit space and the younger generations who want to be involved, want to give back, but aren't really sure how or how to get involved. And so that's like the genesis for Givebutter. It's a very roundabout origin story, but not so much in terms of, yes, we were in a college dorm room, and that is where the company officially got started. And I'll pause there just because there's a lot between there and then, but we're actually about to celebrate our 5-year anniversary here in March. And although now we know when the podcast is being recorded, but we can bleep that one out. But we'll be celebrating that 5-year in just a few weeks, which I'm really excited about.
I love founder stories.
I know. I feel like y'all were like Facebook.
I was about to say, this is like the healthier version. This is the much healthier version of a founding story than Facebook is. But I read that Washington Post article, which is really fascinating, and we'll find it and we'll put it in the show notes. But I just think that you glommed onto something that I think is very unusual for a young male, whether you're a freshman in college, like trying to understand this. How do I use this tech and this desire to be an entrepreneur, and how do I channel it for good? And I love that you started in the college space, because I actually believe that there are so many college-age students who are trying to find themselves and trying to discover who they are and what they want to do with their life. And we really just focus so much on the career aspect of that. And it's like, no one is really pouring into this is how you can also make a difference, or how the two can come together. And that to me is the genius behind Givebutter, that it's just so kind. You're starting in these like formative ages, and you're getting people excited, and you're giving them that drug of serving somebody else and understanding how good it feels. And so I just really applaud you guys, and I just think it's so fantastic. And I wonder where that came from. How did you decide that I want to start leveraging the stream I have for good?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it was like we were in student groups at George Washington University that raised money for their own mission or raised money for charity. It was very prevalent on campus, just raising money. And it was interesting because when we had the sort of seed of an idea for Givebutter, it was very easy to get some early wins with people who were just like, yeah, sure, I use fill in the gap, fundraising platform. I'll try what you're doing. That's easy. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And over time, it made a lot of sense since we had that use case right in front of us, but also a lot of our friends were in other universities, to build an ambassador program where the mantra there was spread the butter, and they were all called butter ambassadors. We had over 300 butter ambassadors on different college campuses. And that was a lot of fun. And that's where we got started. And it's been cool as we've grown that those same people have gone on and joined nonprofits and started nonprofits and are continuing to get involved with giving and fundraising very broadly. So that's been interesting to see that progression, as like going from 80% of our user base being students to that totally shifting and being much more on the traditional nonprofit side, institutional, actual incorporated nonprofits, not just the general group fundraising, but we definitely still have a ton of that. And I think that sort of spark of giving is the like through line, is everything from why we started the company to our little butter mascot. It's all about having fun and building community and giving in whatever way that you can, maybe that's a peer-to-peer fundraiser, maybe that's starting a fundraising campaign, maybe that's donating, or maybe that's just raising awareness for a good cause. Like we want to be a voice to all that, or empower all that through the stuff that we do, but also the things that we build and the people that we work with.
I'm beaming because you can imagine why we had such alignment with Max and his team, because we were with you. I mean, community is everything. You guys were harnessing this belief first through your friends, but just this kind of viral growth of your company. And I love that, last time we chatted with you is just that the way that you've optimized and improved is that you're just listening and you're being responsive to those needs. So you're not this, huge company that's not willing to pivot or try things, but y'all are just in this space of, we're going to provide the best product that these nonprofits need. And you're just here to build that, and to keep adapting and growing. So I love that mindset that y'all just all embody so much. For people that are new to Givebutter, would you kind of give us what makes y'all different? And, I think y'all have really disrupted the space in a lot of ways. Can you walk us through what are those kind of key differences? differentials. What is that word?
I love it when we make up words.
Julie, please clean that up for me.
I got you.
What are those key differences?
So I was thinking about this the other day, actually, and I learned or did a little bit of research scrolling through the Google fundraising platforms and just scrolling through the list of results. And I think we are the only fundraising platform with a mascot. I don't think any other platform has a mascot.
And that's why I would choose.
And that is the Givebutter difference.
I showed my roommate. She loves Mr. Butter. She loves him.
I love Mr. Butter.
So that's a good one. We really think about two things at Givebutter more than anything else. They're very simple. It's just people product. People product is like something that we repeat all the time. And there's like internal and external variations of that, but I just don't think there's any other company, and this is not a super tangible thing, but is as devoted to the people who work at Givebutter and use Givebutter in their communities as we do. I just don't think you'll find another platform that's as people centric as Givebutter, and I don't think you'll also find one that's as product centric. A lot of the platforms in our space have sort of other goals. They focus on dollars, they focus on sales. We very much subscribe to this movement in the tech space of product-led growth. And a lot of that comes back to listening to your customers, building to their needs, not subscribing them, forcing them into annual contracts and hiding your pricing. Anyone that signs up for Givebutter can just come through the front door and we'll welcome you in with open arms. And you can try out the product and see if it works for you. It's not even a trial, it's actually free. We totally run our business off of the optional tips from donors that can support the platform, or you can turn those off and have a platform fee. But otherwise, we don't think that has to come at the cost of the value that you get from the platform. So anyway, customer service, putting the people first, but also the product and having that sort of steer our direction. And then I like saying the mascot thing too, just because it's like, we like to have fun. I think that you'll find a lot of platforms don't really prioritize that either, that, giving is something that should bring people together and build community. And I think it's not been as much of a focus for a long time, understandably, just in that the nonprofit sector can move slower and be a little bit more risk averse, which can make sense to some degree. But also, not prioritizing the giving experience also makes sense to some degree when you can still meet in person and do a lot of in-person things. But now when our experience is hybrid or totally remote or, that stuff just matters so much more. And I think we deliver on that giving experience for not just the admin, the person who's setting it up and making sure it integrates into their CRM. We do that, but the donor, what's their experience look like? How do they engage with your cause? We care a lot about that. And
I just love that, like, being fun, I'm using my air quotes, is such an easy way to humanize. Because I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this, but the last time that we all visited, we were talking about how there were a lot of people that came and hated on Givebutter for the name alone. And I just think that is such old thinking. It's small thinking, because you've created whimsy and with what you've done. You've made it fun. You're in a crowdfunding space. There's nothing about that should be buttoned up and formal and corporate. I mean, it should be whimsy. That is why we're all kind of pulling into community, is because we want to have fun with each other. We want to have a great time while we're doing good. And so I just want to give Mr. Butter, his time in the sun.
Not
but
too
even
much
though
sun.
he'll melt.
Yeah,
there we go. Okay, great. All right, I've done my one. I'm not going to do another one. But I want to just applaud that, because this is why we love you guys. I mean, you're so much our people. You're disruptors. You're innovators. That was really unexpected. And I think just even you saying that we have a mascot is different. Somebody might think that's really kitschy, but it's actually really imperative, because if you're going to humanize your company and you're going to show we're not just a bunch of people sitting in ties in a back room trying to count our beans. We're actually like committed to making this experiential, to making it an incredible experience. And we want you to love it so much that you keep coming back, that you keep fundraising for the causes that are important to you. So my hat's off to you. I totally get what you guys are doing, and we are here for it, and we love the disruption of it.
And I don't want you to miss, I mean, Max, I know y'all went like on a pivot at some point and said, no, we're going to do this completely free. I mean, that took some guts. I mean, from a CEO perspective to say, we are going to trust in the kindness and goodness of people that they're going to support this platform from the tips that y'all call it. I just think that's a really interesting, powerful move y'all made. And clearly the winner on this is the nonprofit and the donor side. But would you talk about that moment? I'm just so curious of when you said and doubled down on that, because it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As a brief history, we started off, the platform's always been free to use from a functional standpoint. You can sign up and create an account and use all the features that we have to offer without paying anything out of pocket. We've always taken a fee on the dollars raised. Part of that's credit card processing fees. You see those everywhere. They're unavoidable. And that usually ranges from like 2.2 to 2.9%. We've always made that transparent. We've always given donors the option to cover those. And then there's the platform fee, which is how we support what we do. And we've played with that in different ways. We started off with this model where the more you donated, the smaller the percentage fee was. And we've done things where we break it out per product, whether you're doing a form or a fundraising campaign or an event. And then we have to give a hat tip to GoFundMe, who introduced sort of tips to the mass market as a concept, which I believe before that was UCaring, which they acquired. And so they kind of normalized to some extent seeing tips in donation forms. The thing that they didn't do, though, that I think is really important is they sort of forced a model on their community. They said, we're going to keep processing fees hidden and we're going to ask people to tip. And so what that resulted in is, and still today, if you run a GoFundMe campaign, not on the GoFundMe charity side, which is shutting down, unfortunately, but on the main platform side, GoFundMe, you'll see an option to tip the platform. And at the end of the day, if you raise $10,000, GoFundMe takes 300 of that. They take 3%, their processing fee. For Givebutter, what we do is everyone has control. They're in the driver's seat. You can hide processing fees. You can show processing fees. You can even require that donors cover a processing fee. And if you don't like the tip option, you can turn that off too. And there's just a very market rate platform fee added based on the features that you're using. We don't charge for anything else except for things like custom branding and priority support. But the thing I want to get back to your question on is we actually introduced this in the very beginning of COVID, this sort of experimental tip feature. And we were specifically enabling it for organizations that were impacted by COVID as like and during the George Floyd racial justice events happening. And we wanted to uplift and include more communities in what we had to offer. And we wanted price not to be, fees or costs to be a reason why they weren't able to do it. But it was so successful with those organizations that we just actually rolled it out across the whole platform. And so that's kind of where it started. And we had some innovative thinking for how could we do this sort of experimental model that just relies on generosity. We don't have any way to monetize other than if people leave these tips, and it worked out. So as of, I think, December of last year, we just rolled out that model site-wide where people can use every feature we have to offer without paying anything out of pocket and totally relying on those tips.
On behalf of the 1.5 million nonprofits in the U.S. alone, I want to thank you for doing that, because that was such a forward-thinking, generous move. And it's really allowing missions to do more with their dollars. And I just really appreciate your out-of-the-box thinking on that. And I want to paint a picture for our listeners, because everybody that works in a nonprofit has a group of, we call them rabid fans, people who love your mission. They want to go to bat for your mission. When you ask for help, they're the first ones to raise their hand. So could you walk us through like a client success story of someone who leveraged your platform to create a meaningful impact for the nonprofit that meant the most to them? Because we really want to make sure that our listeners know how they could empower those rabid fans to use a platform like Givebutter to do more for their mission.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to give two examples actually, because I
it.
have one in mind that's not a nonprofit, but I can give an easy nonprofit one that I love referencing.
Do both.
So one that jumps to mind is it's actually a restaurant called Rasa. It's in DC, Washington, DC. And like many small businesses, super impacted by the pandemic. But they were very innovative in that they wanted to find a way to support their business, keep themselves going, keep their employees staffed, but also to try to find a way to help people who are even more in need, healthcare workers who weren't finding time to eat meals, or people who were just impacted economically, who were unable to afford good meals for themselves. And they actually ran a fundraising campaign on Givebutter that empowered them to keep their staff employed through the dollars that they raised, but then actually use those funds to give away. Their original goal was 5,000 meals, which was at a $24,000, $12,000, 24. They got a matching grant, so it might have been double that, but about $12,000 or $24,000 raised, and they actually raised $75,000 on Givebutter.
Oh, wow.
And that was all about the community, like community. They basically said, here's what we want to do. Here's our story. We'd love to invite you to support us in what we're trying to accomplish. And people came, people gave, people engaged. One of the cool things about Givebutter is that we've got this really great supporter feed where people can leave GIFs and drawings when they donate, and photos and messages of support and emojis and all the things that you'd expect or want when you want to share with others what you care about in this cause. And I think that was a huge part of their success, was seeing that sort of social community online of who you're engaging with and participating with. So that's the restaurant example. The nonprofit example is called Humans for Education. I've been involved with them since day one. Actually, Daphne, the founder, signed up for our mailing list when we were so small that I was looking at every single person that was subscribing to our newsletter. And I was just reaching out and saying, hey, like, I saw that you subscribed. It was one of the first .org domains that actually subscribed to our newsletter. And I ended up actually joining their board, and they've been involved since the early days. And they actually, we didn't have a donation form product for a while, way to embed donation forms on your site. And they ended up using DonorBox, which is a competitor of ours, which was totally understandable because we didn't support things like recurring donations or embeddable forms. So they ended up doing that. And I was really excited when this year they actually came back around and moved everything back onto Givebutter. And what I love about that is a nonprofit like Humans for Education can centralize their peer-to-peer fundraising, their donation forms, their event ticketing, their virtual events, all the stuff that you want to do to engage your donors online and ask, or just at least generate awareness for whatever projects and campaigns and your mission that you're trying to accomplish. Givebutter can put that all under one roof. And so they're a great example of a nonprofit that's been able to do that all in one place without having to have multiple tools, multiple data sources, and having a sort of unified experience for their community across all the different types of campaigns and things that they want to do.
Way to go, Daphne, for signing up.
And way to go, Max, for like personalizing that relationship,
right?
Which I can just tell from the way that you're talking about her that you guys have a great like professional friendship now because of how leaned in you were early on. P.S. John and I are completely in the throes of looking at every person who subscribes to our email list.
That's
too.
our text or Instagram follower. We're geeking out whenever somebody follows us. So
and it
it's
just
really
feels
awesome.
good, like to be seen and for somebody to see you and to acknowledge that you're here. And I just could think that would be really powerful to Max to reach out to her and say, how can we help? So great stories. I love that. I even love the restaurant story. That was wonderful.
Yeah. We're lucky to work with. I mean, actually, there's a related to this. Anyone who's interested, we've been doing these video features of success stories on our site, pretty much one a week. It's on our blog, and Rachel on our team just does these sort of video interviews. And I could have picked any of those. There's like 40 or 50 at this point, and they're just so amazing. The stories, but Daphne and the Humans for Education team has a special place in my heart for sure, for just like, they're probably the longest, like we're celebrating our 5-year anniversary, like, Daphne's 5 years on Givebutter, and that's just really cool to see how that's grown and developed. And as their nonprofit's grown and the things they've been able to accomplish is really cool.
Awesome.
I love it so much. Well, y'all, you're pioneers in the crowdfunding space. I feel like what you're doing in that is really kind of leading edge, and definitely the terms of the tech pieces of it. What have you learned from crowdfunding? What is the power of it? What is kind of the secret sauce of what makes one campaign work, whereas another one maybe not so much? Shed some of your wisdom after tens of thousands of campaigns running through y'all's platform.
Ooh, the success stories have lots of that. They're the real experts. For me, I see definitely a few things with crowdfunding that are tried and true since day one. And it's why we've built some of the features and prioritized some of the things that we have with like the supporter feed, for example. People give to people. Like the number one reason we see people giving on Givebutter is because someone they know asked them to.
Yeah.
And we can only help so much with that. But what we can do is that when they get there, they see, John and Becky and Julie, and they're like, oh, I see my people. I'm here, I'm part of this community, and I want to be involved with that. It's not, I like to say like buying something on Amazon where you're it's like a checkout flow, and then you like add to cart, and then
bot delivers it to your door. Like you never even see a human at all. It's like
right,
the opposite.
right.
It's like the anti-social. Right. Yes.
Yeah. So putting the people at the forefront, not even always necessarily, because everyone's giving because of the mission. Like no one's like, I don't support that, like actively anti that, and I'm not going to give. Like everyone, if you're giving, you're donating, you're supporting that mission, and you care about it. But the thing that I think most people, and not to like put them at competitive with each other, but I think it's by prioritizing the people in your community, bringing them together, whether that's part of the campaign or just highlighting those stories, is something I think people don't focus on enough or approach enough. There's the classics, the goal, the urgency, elements of like any successful crowdfunding campaign that I always encourage people to have. But it's so different for every organization. I want to be able to be like, here's the like golden goose sort of like piece of advice that's going to make all your fundraising dreams come true. I think just sticking to the people and leveraging them. Like a lot of people think about acquiring new donors or growing outside of their existing base. You got to start with the people that you have, and building those relationships and getting them to then go one layer deeper and one layer deeper. And it's not about posting on Facebook. Like that's just not going to create a retained long-term donor. It's like, even when you get that new donor, what happens then? What's the relationship that you're building then? How are you reaching out and calling? And it's same way that Daphne's been around for 5 years. Like there's so many parallels to the way that we built a business that I'm sure a lot of nonprofits could take away, where when you get that new newsletter subscriber, like, are you calling them? Are you reaching out? Because that person could become a supporter that changes your whole world in 5 years, as a case study on your, site about your mission. Like that's the kind of thing I think people need to think about is first-time donor retention, but also focusing on the community. Are probably my two like catch-all pieces of advice that I'd give, but
and have a mascot. Always.
Yeah, and have a mascot.
Have a mascot. I just love that it can be so simple as to just say, at least this is the way I'm visualizing on someone's website. Do you love us? Do you want to help us? Here's a couple quick ways you could do it without even involving us. Like you could crowdfund, and here's some 3 quick steps on how to do that. And that is so low pressure, and you can say it in a way that is so kind and gentle. That's like, do you just want to keep perpetuating the good work that we're doing? I mean, I have seen this so many times in nonprofit where people say, don't give me my birthday gifts, don't buy me a Christmas gift, like give to me in this way. And that would actually mean so much more to me. And so just having these little hacks and having these platforms like Givebutter, which by the way, I'm going to give a little plug here. They're the only ones that accept Venmo. And I mean, we talk about like you have to have ease of use and no friction, the least amount of friction possible on your giving pages. That's one way that this could be a hack. And I just think that any way that you can help your rabid fans figure out how they can be a light to you, because not everybody has $1 million to give. Not everybody is old enough to start setting up. I guess you could give a planned gift anytime, you could be 20, but it's like you're just not in that frame of mind. This is a way that we can connect. You don't have to be Gen Z. You don't have to be millennial. You can be anybody to help. And it's a very simple way. So I love this discussion on crowdfunding. So we love to ask each of our guests about a moment in philanthropy that touched them and just stayed with you and has had resonance in your life. I can imagine you are watching thousands of stories go through your company, and I wonder which one is percolating and the one that you might want to share with our community today.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I really do have so many that I could think of. One that just sticks out, and this is a sort of a catch-all for recent events, is I'm living in Austin, Texas. Someone has a temporary home, and it was one of the first times where I've been a part of, I guess you could call it, like a natural disaster. There was a lot of power outages. We didn't have power for almost a week. We had to boil water if we wanted to drink it and conserve water when there was water. We also just had our new puppy Buttercup, and she had to go through all that trauma in our new home. It's like, what are these people doing to me? So that was quite an experience. But then Austin and just Texas sort of relief campaigns were the top campaigns on Givebutter, and seeing, we had our own situation that we had to deal with. There were people that were a lot worse off than us in terms of how that affected them. But seeing that, like, in my own community, the sort of that action-oriented fundraising of stepping up and finding ways to provide for those who really needed it in Austin and in Texas was really cool to see. And there were 5 or 6 campaigns that were at the top of we have sort of like a daily active campaigns to see who's active and who's raising and what's going on the platform. And to see that happening right here where I was just very close to home and cool to see. So that was something that was pretty recent that I was, it's cool to be able to be a part of that in our way. That's, I think of, I didn't start a nonprofit. I'm not working for a nonprofit the way that a lot of our users are. But when I think of how I relate to that sort of user empathy, it's all about being a change maker. And this is my change. I'm able to provide a platform that then helps them help people. So it's a degree higher, or a degree, it's in a different, there's a chart there that you could probably connect some dots, but it's fulfilling for me to be able to see those impact stories that are so close to home.
I like full circle.
I was literally just about to use that
full circle.
phrase.
That's better. I didn't like the hierarchy there. It's
I could see your flow chart as you were describing it, but it really is such a beautiful anthem to what you've done here, that you have created a platform by which is helping so many people, and then all of a sudden your platform is one of the top platforms that is giving back to your community, and thus you could make a gift through your own platform to help people that you know and love. It's just such an epic story. I just love it so much.
I do too.
It's very meta.
I mean, I always love to ask founders, what is your dream for this space, Max? I mean, y'all have already cut through, and I'm sure what you were sitting in y'all's apartment dreaming of what this thing could be, didn't have an idea that it could be as big as it is today. Where does Max go next with Givebutter? What's your dreams?
It oscillates sometimes between day and night. I would say right now, I'm living the dream. I'm so proud of the team that we've built and are building, and the product that we built and the community that we get to work with. I can't, I definitely have dreams beyond, but during the day, it's I think I'm living it. Just to appreciate that, I think it's nice. Beyond that, and then at night where I'm sort of what's, I have downtime and I'm what's going on? I think yeah, you can really, yeah. I think the dream for Givebutter would to be synonymous when you think of email marketing, you think of MailChimp. When you think of event ticketing, you think of Eventbrite. I want to think of people when they think about giving to think about Givebutter. And today we do crowdfunding and we do events and we do forums, but I really think that there's so much that can still be improved in giving, and that we're doing all those things, but I think we could be doing them even better. And yeah, there's a lot of that just sort of just getting started feel happening at Givebutter. I think we're we're putting together a really cool team. And the biggest learning for me is just like, as someone who's been doing the work for 4 years and then have such growth in this last sort of 5th year, scaling and seeing where other people take it is the coolest thing in the world. Like we're not, like the best thing I can do to sort of support the company is to just like open up my arms and just welcome in amazing people who then go and make Givebutter their own. And I can help them. That's what I'm really excited about, is I think that team that we're going to build and the impact that they'll have in seeing that scale.
John, Max is your brother from another mother.
I was about to say.
Everything is better with butter. It truly is.
I can't believe it's not better. Okay, you've been waiting for that.
I can't believe.
I can't believe that you're going to say that.
Hey, by the way, I did meet Fabio in person, who did the everything. I can't believe it's not butter, right?
I know. I was going to say something profound, and you're talking about Fabio. I love that that's where these conversations go. I mean,
As they should.
I mean, that was a true entrepreneur, like purist kind of a response, like never being content, always adapting, always trying to find creative ways to do things differently. And the fact that you're keeping like the people at the very center of it tells me exactly why you guys are so successful. And John is this way too. And he will be annoyed that I'm bringing this up, but we'll be working, at like 2 a.m. and texting back and forth. And we have 42 things we need to do. And then John will just get a light bulb moment of something he thinks we need to do. And we'll talk about it for 20 minutes, back and forth. And then we'll just say, yeah, we'll do that in like 2031 or something like that. We're putting it on the back burner. But I think that is just like creative energy. And if we're not having those conversations, we can't just be in the grind of, and I think this is true for nonprofits. We can't be in the grind of just churning out our outputs. We need to take time to be creative, to remember our why, to remember who we're doing it for. And we need to embrace this dreamy quality because, again, we talk about mindsets a lot. I mean, that abundance and creative mindset is only going to lend us to doing more and more and getting better and better. So great answer.
Love it. Okay, Max, we ask all of our guests what's their one good thing. And so that could be a secret to your success or a piece of advice to help move the needle. What's that for you?
The first thing that jumps to mind is something that you may be familiar with. I don't know, but the audience is Inbox Zero. I don't know if you've ever heard of the sort of Inbox Zero philosophy.
This is the like end every day with no emails in your inbox idea, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to necessarily end every day with no emails, but that's generally the idea. Yeah, is basically like instead of having like unlimited emails all the time, marking as read, unread, folder systems, you basically archive everything. Or you snooze it for later. So you can sort of block off periods of time to do email, but it almost turns your email into more of a to-do list that you kind of control on your own time. I've turned off email notifications. I basically have like morning, middle, night time where I just go on my email and yeah, it's more like a to-do list. I've actually created a filter where this is a fun one. Anything that says unsubscribe in the email, I'll just put into a newsletters folder so that pretty much anything that's actually more like a personal email, I'm getting that right into my box, which Gmail might filter that differently. So maybe that's not so novel, but the point is Inbox Zero has totally changed my like approach to work and to email, where everything is more like I kind of control my destiny when it comes to email. It's not like notification, respond, and at some undetermined time. So that was a thing that's helped me a lot that hopefully other people can take on.
If you're trying to personally email Max, don't accidentally use the word unsubscribe in a sentence. It's the moral of the story.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Though.
Oh, I love that tip. And that was just practical. And it helps you. I mean, we talk about this a lot, like having focus,
so much
because it's hard. It's hard in this digital world to have focus and to be in flow. And you cannot be in flow when your phone is blowing up all the time or your email notifications. So that was actually almost like a mental health tip. So thank you for that very, very much. Okay, Max, how can listeners connect with you? How can they connect with Mr. Butter? How can they connect with Princess Butterpup? Like, give us all of the social channels and the websites.
Yes. So Butterpup, most importantly, is, I think, on Instagram at princess. And then it's Butterpup. Her name is Buttercup, but we went with Butterpup. I think it was taken, but I like Butterpup. It's clever. And then Givebutter is givebutter.com. I'm at max@givebutter.com is my email. Please reach out. Don't use the word unsubscribe. And yeah, I'd love to connect. Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere. I'm definitely in a place where I just love hearing from people. So if anything I said resonated, you have a question, you want to chat, just reach out, and I'd love to hear from you.
John, when a CEO gives his personal email address away to a mass audience, you know that people matter most to them. So thank 100%. You for that personal email, and we will try not to do anything with it, Rogue. You guys are so great. We just love the people that you are. We love the ethos that you are permeating throughout all of your business. And for anyone that's listening that has some curiosity about how to take your crowdfunding to the next level or to even start it, I mean, this is such a great starting point for you. And to know that it was founded by really good humans who want to do some good in the world, I mean, that just makes it so easy, I think, for somebody that has a nonprofit mission. And
then we're not getting kickbacks either, friends. We're just saying, if you feel stuck in a platform that you can't leverage, just set up a profile and use it for a campaign and see how it goes. Because I remember being on inside a nonprofit and feeling like we're so locked into our long-term contracts that you felt stifled of what you could try. But you don't have to feel like that. This is an incredible value proposition for listeners. So thanks for being here, Max. Every time we talk, we feel boosted. So appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you. It's truly, I love what y'all are doing. And like you said, it's such an honor to be able to work in this space. And I hope that Givebutter is a resource, but also just in the content we provide, the tools we provide, sign up. If it works for you, great. If not, no commitment. So give it a shot. And I know this is your podcast, but plugging for just We Are For Good, just everything you're doing. If you're not already subscribed to their newsletter, subscribe. If you're not listening to the podcast, you saw it on, a LinkedIn post and you're not following on the iTunes or Spotify or wherever, go do that. They're awesome, putting out amazing content.
Thanks, Max. You got to stop the people first.
Our heads are not going to get out the door. Have a good week, everybody.
We appreciate you.
Bye, y'all.
Got it.